everyone for being here, and thanks to this lovely venue as well for hosting PoetiCon. How exciting! I can't actually believe we've got a whole afternoon of hearing from poets, talking about poetry, talking about writing. It's a really brilliant initiative, so thanks very much, Kent Poetry CIC. I'm Jess Taggart-Rose, and I actually wanted to, and I hope this isn't breaking the convention. If it is, I didn't get the memo. I wanted to start with a very short poem. It's called The Hard Stuff. It can take years to form a poem. Sediment piled atop sediment, bodies reduced to bone. Years of waste and its companion, grief, compressed under their own weight. Loose silt erodes, washes away, to leave a null, nugget, core, process, integral to form. And I wanted to share that poem with you just by way of introduction. You don't have to clap, it's alright. Because I think time is one of the things that it takes to make a poem. And the other thing that it takes to make a poem, there's two more. The other thing is space. And that's what the Writers' Room at Ring Studios is all about. So I just wanted to tell you a little bit about how we came to have it. And yeah, a little bit about what else it provides. I've started it here in rural Australia. What the hell are we doing in rural Australia, you may well ask. And this is a house that may or may not be, it's very much like the house, one of the houses I grew up in. And what you can see, like the windows on the back, there's a closed-in veranda. So in Australia, lots of homes have verandas. It was a beautiful space where, believe it or not, it doesn't look very sunny there, but the sun would shine in those back windows. It's a north-facing space. And that space is one of the places I remember when I think, when I wanted to be creative, what did I do? And I'd go and sit in the sunroom where the sun would shine in, and I'd do some writing or some drawing or tinkle away on the piano that somebody gifted us that was always out of tune. And like all those things happened in this room. And so I wonder whether this is maybe where my side of the Writers' Room started. It was a Telemet Connor who also had a bit of a vision for a space for writers that, you know, we started to talk about it. I went away to uni and obviously, you know, as we all do, read Virginia Woolf, and a woman must have money and a room of her own. She used to write fiction. This is not Virginia Woolf in the picture. This is Tanya Royer. And Tanya Royer is another writer based in Margate now, who's a very, very strong feminist and, you know, often talking about what do you need? You've got to have space. You've got to have space of your own. You've got to have somewhere that you can go that isn't your house where your houseworkers are piling up and your kids aren't asking you for things. And so it was that kind of idea, I guess, behind the Writers' Room. And we started off not in Marine Studios. We actually started off in the Margate bookshop. So when the bookshop first opened in Margate, as you do, poets flock to books. This is one of the things we do. So you know, we were hanging around Francesca, who runs the bookshop, and you know, she was showing us around, and she said, "I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this middle room yet. It's the room above the bookshop. It's not where she was going to be living." I said, "Well, you know, I've got some ideas." And so yeah, so the Writers' Room was born, and we painted and we sanded and we bought second-hand rugs and second-hand furniture, and ta-da, we had a room, and we invited people to come and use it to write for free. You know, if they wanted to charge their laptops or their phones, or if they were visiting writers, they could come and use it. And we did a whole bunch of stuff. So we had a very, very tiny poetry library in one little bookcase, and we had events like We Are Beat, which was a really fun poetry night where we invited loads of poets who were into beat poetry and just had an absolute kind of hell of a time. We had local groups like We Read, which is a local Margate group who came to do readings and talk about books. And we had young people's things like Love Where You Live, which was a Margate Bookie initiative. So we just made the space available to people, and we just said, come and do stuff here. And that ran up until COVID in a kind of a stop-start way, because I had an almost full-time job and was, trying to kind of make it happen just in between things. But then that closed down over COVID. Francesca needed the space because the bookshop was booming. Hooray! So so that closed down, and then Connor and I were talking about, well, what else can we do? Where else can we be? Which brings us to Marine Studios. And Connor had a desk at Marine Studios. It was started up by a museum exhibition design company called HKD. They basically let out their desks. Let out desks in their office for different creatives to be. Dan Thompson has a studio there as well. So it's always been a hub. And when they said they wanted to take a bit of a step back from running a co-working space, because they've been doing it for 16 years and it's not easy, Connor and I were like, what can we do? How can we make this work? So we kind of talked among ourselves, we talked to Dan, we talked to Anne, who's now one of the other directors, and we said, do you know what, let's take it on, let's just take a chance, and we'll apply for funding, but whether we get it or not, we're gonna try and do something here. So we did get funding, hooray! and that enabled us, the funding enabled us really to set it up and have a bit of a year of transition where we were learning from HKD, learning from Dan, and understanding what it would take to be able to run Marine Studios as a co-working space and writer's room. And we were also able to program loads of events. So we invited people to come and do stuff there. We said, what do you want to do? We've got some things we want to do. I run a Margate Stanza Poetry Crit Group. We thought it would be really nice to have a fiction group. Who do we know that does fiction? Oh, let's ask such and such if they'd be willing to run a group. So Gavin started running the fiction group, and then people came to us. Emily's a scriptwriter, and she said, I've always wanted to run a writer's room where we all just come together and write for 3 hours. And we said, great, that's brilliant, we want something like that, why don't you come and do it? So she advertised it, she called it Writer's Block, she put stuff out on Instagram, and lo and behold, on a very, very cold January morning, we had 28 writers show up, 9:30 on a Friday morning, can you believe it? I thought writers didn't arrive until after midday, but it's not true, they're all out there, and they're all looking for places to be, and the kind of warmth of other human bodies, I think, especially in a cold January winter. So, it's been fabulous. It's been an amazing year that we've had. We also hosted the Margate Bookie Write-Up Weekend, which some of you might have come to or might have been involved with. And somebody else in our studios does mindfulness, and so he started up on Mindful Mondays once a month. What's not on here is Dan's also starting up a local history club. So it's become this space where people can come to us and say, do you know what, I've got an idea, and we'll be like, great, let's do it. First Fridays as well enabled us to kind of reinvigorate First Fridays, which were a really long-standing way of bringing not only writers, but writers together with other creatives. And we offered subsidised desk space because fewer than 1 in 10 arts workers in the UK have working class roots, and a survey of writers in the last few years showed that a lot of them are earning less than 10k, around 7k a year. It's really, really hard out there. And what we wanted to do was make sure that this was a space that working class writers, that people that didn't think of themselves as writers, probably didn't think that they could be writers, could come, could find a space, could get support. It's hard to mention all the things that go on there, but Connor also runs Camp Poetry, CIC are also involved in helping them get funding. So it is a place for you guys to come, a place for other writers to come and get support, get space, find other writers, and that's basically it. And I think that was the third thing that I think we need as writers. So time, space, and other poets. As poets, we need other poets, and that's live ones. We definitely need live ones around us, but we also need the dead ones as well, and I love the idea that poetry is a conversation between poets of all different generations, all different experiences, all different backgrounds. And so, really just want to encourage everybody to come and visit us in Margate. It's a space for you. Get in touch with us, me, Connor, Dan, and let us know you want to come and have a look.